Chapter 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Just when I became a god, they blew my cover. Shun, the author. Introduction. The continent is called Kyushu, and it's packed with countries. Thousands of Yingyun, a time traveler who landed in the Qin Dynasty, became Emperor Qin's ninth son and snagged the lazy bum system. Basically, the lazier he was, the better the rewards, so, naturally, Yingyun immediately started racking up rewards just by chilling. He leveled up big time and became the only legit god in Kyushu. Then one day, a golden list dropped from the sky, ranking the strongest folks around, and get this, the list showed Yingyun in the desert, slicing open the gates of heaven with his sword, storming into the god realm, and wiping out hundreds of thousands of troops. The whole world went wild. Emperor Shutian, wait, what? Someone's tougher than me? Seriously? Lonely seeker, I've slashed every enemy, beaten every hero, craved a worthy fight but never found one. This Yingyun, he's worth throwing down for. Next thing you know, lists of divine weapons and epic armies started dropping to top of the divine weapon list. The holy sword Xianyuan, owned by Qin's ninth prince, Yingyun. Number 1 army on the heavenly army ranking. The great snow dragon cavalry, serving none other than great Qin's ninth prince, Yingyun. Yingyun, Emperor Qin, is this my good-for-nothing son? Chapter 1, the heavenly golden list lands, shaking Kyushu. Kyushu is huge, the 5 major powers, Qin, Han, Tang, Song, and Ming, ruled the roost, but don't sleep on the Yuan, Qing, Liao, and Qin dynasties, or the Zongwu and Turkic tribes, either. Outside the dynasties, martial arts clans clashed. Even so, the martial arts world and the dynasties kept to themselves, never the twain shall meet. But now, Qin Dynasty, Xianyang, capital city, Yingyun, decked out in black robes and a gold crown, stood in court. He eyed his officials before looking down. I ordered all the princes to report to the palace. Who's still missing? His voice boomed, powerful but calm. It had been years since he'd unified the 6 kingdoms. Yingyun had to admit, he was getting old, slowing down. That's why he'd called the princes in, supposedly to test them. Really, he was shopping for an heir. Father, ninth brother Yingyun, he's not here yet. Seeing Yingyun getting steamed, Fu Su stepped forward, bowed low, and said. He's probably just running late. Running late? Every official in the hall snickered. Everyone knew Prince Yingyun was the king of slackers. It wasn't even noon, and he probably wasn't out of bed yet. Humph, Yingyun snorted, but felt a twinge of helplessness. Prince Yingyun was whip-smart, with a photographic memory. He even acted like Yingyun did when he was younger, which Yingyun loved, but man, was he lazy. If he could sit, he wouldn't stand. If he could lie down, he wouldn't sit. He even fell asleep during imperial QAs, which drove Yingyun nuts, but he couldn't bring himself to punish him. Now, when he's trying to pick an heir, where is the guy? Meng Tian. Get your men and drag that kid here. And don't screw it up. Yingyun exploded. He wanted Meng Tian to haul Yingyun over, see how he likes being bothered while he's relaxing. Yes, sir. Meng Tian flinched. Yingyun was seriously ticked off. He bowed and rushed to the ninth prince's mansion. Boom. Just then, a bell rang out, like the voice of the heavens, echoing forever. Then, golden light exploded, visible even inside the palace. What's that? The court was stunned. Even Yingyun forgot his anger and rushed out of the hall, staring at the light source. Golden light rippled, scattered, but never faded. Finally, it became a golden scroll, slowly unfurling, revealing massive words. The Heavenly Tao. Golden List. The words were ancient, from no language on earth, but Yingyun knew what they meant. It wasn't just Qin, either. Across Kyushu, Ming, Tang, Han, Yuan, Qing, the Zongwu, the Turks, everyone saw the Heavenly Tao Golden List. Then, everyone freaked out. Ming Dynasty, Forbidden City, Zhu Yuanzhang, the dynasty's founder, saw the sky light up. He smiled, patting his grandson Zhu Yunwen on the head. See, grandson. A blessing from heaven. Everything's going our way. even gods on our side. Zhu Yuanzhang had clawed his way to the top. He figured he was destined for greatness, blessed by heaven. Father, it looks like a thing called the Heavenly Tao Golden List. Zhu Di added carefully, but his father glared him down. Tang Dynasty, Tai Chi Hall. Li Shimin was worn out. He'd just pulled off the Xuanwu Gate incident, forced his father to abdicate, and been attacked by the Turks, forcing him to sign a humiliating treaty. This defeat was a heavy blow to an ambitious emperor. What's happening? Lost in thought, Li Shimin heard the bells and saw the golden light forming a giant scroll. He froze. Heavenly Tao. Golden List. Song Dynasty, Zhao Kuanyin, wearing his yellow robes, watched the scroll in silence. Yuan, Qin, Jin, the Xiongnu, the Turks, even in the martial arts world, the Sun-Moon sect, Tianmen, Wudong, they all saw the scroll. Kyushu went nuts. The whole world was shaken. Chapter 2, The Peerless List arrives, ranking the strongest. Clang. As everyone watched, the scroll above swayed, reflecting the heavens. A message appeared in everyone's mind: the vast 9 provinces, a world of change. Who controls the destiny of this land? Behold, the heavenly golden list. It ranks all, listing the top 10 in strength, arms, armies, and more. Those on the list receive a blessing from heaven. Today, we reveal the peerless list, counting the 10 strongest beings in the 9 provinces. Boom! As the words echoed, all of Kyushu, from the imperial courts to the martial arts world, trembled. The strongest? Seriously? The continent was brimming with martial artists. Realms were divided into acquired and innate. Above innate, they were warriors, divided into third-rate, second-rate, and first-rate. Beyond first-rate came the masters. Chapter 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at JoJo, top-tier warriors are rare finds. True masters. Even rarer, practically legends. Everyone knows a master's power is insane. One person can take on an entire army. Dynasties scramble, offering insane perks just to get a master on their side, but masters are free spirits. Only a few work for the court, the rest do their own thing. Now, the Tiandao Golden List is ranking the strongest beings in JoJo. Are any of these masters on the list? This thought ignited ambition in every emperor and dynasty. The Qin, Yingyun. If we could snag this powerhouse from the list, the Qin would be unstoppable. I wonder if anyone in Qin can even make it. Yingyun gazed at the sky, then his eyes landed on a shadowy figure in the Golden Palace, a long sword strapped to his back. Gynya, the Juggernaut. Yingyun's strongest protector. Bar none. Below Grandmaster level, no one can survive one of my strikes. Against a Grandmaster, it's a 50-50 duel, maybe slightly less in a fight to the death. Gynya bowed deeply, his voice unwavering. He spoke with absolute confidence, and no one doubted him. Rumor had it Gynya once fought a true master, and walked away. That alone cemented his title of Sword Master. Good. Yingyun's frown eased, a slight nod and smile playing on his lips. I believe you'll make the list and bring glory to Qin. Daming, in the Forbidden City, Zhu Yuanzhang stroked his chin, deep in thought. It seemed he didn't have any real heavy hitters. Not a master, not even a decent fighter. Wait. Don't we have some distant relative who's kind of a big deal? We made him a marquis, right? The Iron God Marquis or something. Get him here. Finally, Zhu Yuanzhang remembered his distant relative who was doing pretty well for himself. Bringing him in would at least add some prestige. Well. Zhu Di looked uncomfortable. The Iron God Marquis mostly ignored them and probably wouldn't want to be a bodyguard. Giving him gifts was one thing, but assigning him to guard duty? Unlikely. Useless. Zhu Yuanzhang scowled, but he was stuck. Big Han, Changle Palace. Lu Bang scanned his officials, sighed, and said. Strategically speaking, Mr. Ziliang should be on the golden list, but in terms of sheer power, the Han Empire doesn't have much to show off. The Han Dynasty had plenty of generals, guys like Fan Kuai and Peng Yu, led by Han Xian and Yingbu, all battlefield legends. And brilliant strategists like Zhang Liang and Xiao He. But this peerless list only recognized raw power, and the Han Dynasty was lacking. No. I need to recruit some of these powerhouses to serve the Han. Lu Bang's eyes lit up. He stared at the scroll in the void, waiting for the list to be revealed. Since the Tiandao Golden List was so powerful, it had to be ranking the most powerful beings in Jojo. Recruiting them would at least guarantee freedom from assassinations. Many rulers shared Lu Bang's thoughts. As emperors, they held ultimate power, but what if they got taken out during a casual outing? The king of Wu, one of the three kingdoms bordering the Han, got assassinated, and some nobody got rushed into power. It was the laughingstock of Jojo. Recruiting these listed powerhouses became a must for all the emperors. Chapter 3: The Useless Prince. Gold list number 10 is revealed. Meanwhile, to Qin, Xianyang City, in a lavish palace, Yingyun yawned and dressed with the help of a beautiful maid. He glanced at the sky and saw the golden list. He froze. Peerless list? What the heck is that? Yingyun didn't actually belong here, he was a time traveler. But he had some power. He was the 9th prince of the great Qin Empire, Fu Su's younger brother. He also had his own cheat, the ultimate lazy bum system. As long as he stayed laid back and signed in regularly, he got rewards, so, Yingyun decided to be a chill prince, enjoying life. He even became a land-based immortal. Young master, that's the heavenly golden list, the peerless list that will be announced soon. It ranks the 10 strongest people in Jojo. That Wu Wei, the maid, had been helping him dress and saw the list appear. She respectfully said. Oh, right. His Majesty wants you in court, Wu Wei. Originally from the Tang Dynasty, Yingyun saved her from a family mess, and she became his maid. Peerless list, Yingyun's heart skipped a beat. Something felt wrong. The 10 strongest people. He knew only a handful in Jojo were even Grandmaster level. As for land-based immortals, did they even exist here? This is bad. Are they going to expose me? Wait. There's also a list of divine weapons and a list of celestial armies. Yingyun was freaking out. If his abilities were revealed, how could he live carefree? How could he relax? This is a disaster. Young master, with your strength, you'll definitely be on the list. Wu Wei was surprised by Yingyun's reaction. She thought he was worried about the list and tried to reassure him. Everyone in Qin thought Prince Yingyun was useless and only cared about having fun. But Wu Wei knew her young master was secretly powerful. His carefree attitude was just a disguise. Yeah. Definitely on the list. Yingyun nodded glumly. If land-based immortals couldn't make the list, who could? But the real problem was, how could he enjoy himself if his true strength was revealed? Whatever. I'll deal with it when it happens. Yingyun shook his head and headed out, planning to do some shopping and relax. Oh yeah. Wu Wei said the old man wanted to see him. Forget it. Ignore him. Zhongtai Palace. Yingyun stared at the golden list, distracted. Then, as if struck by inspiration, he turned to Meng Tian and said coldly. Where's my rebellious son? Get him over here to look at this list. Didn't he want to learn martial arts as a kid? I hired so many tutors, but he quit on all of them. Hurry. Let him see this. Yingyun had a photographic memory and some talent for martial arts. Even Gai Nye praised him. But Yingyun was lazy, only putting in effort for 3 days and slacking off for 2. He gave up. Yingyun almost exploded with rage. Chapter 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. But seriously, Yingyun's got no chance against Yingyun. It's only a matter of time before he accepts that. And now, the heavenly gold list is about to reveal the top 10 absolute powerhouses. Yingyun couldn't help but picture the scene in his mind, and it made his teeth clench in anger. He secretly vowed to make that little brat pay this time. Yes, sir. Meng Tian shuddered, offering a silent prayer for Yingyun. After the list makes its announcements, His Majesty's long-simmering rage is sure to explode. Even someone as clever as the 9th prince won't be able to dodge this storm. Still, Meng Tian didn't dare to hesitate. Without a second glance at the unfolding gold list, he rounded up a squad of soldiers and charged toward Yingyun's residence. Just as Meng Tian left, the heavenly Tao gold list solidified, a booming voice resonated in everyone's ears, 10th on the peerless list, Sword Master, Gai Nye. Realm, first rate, achievement, Grandmaster Slayer. Boom! The voice echoed across Kyushu, silencing every dynasty and martial arts community in stunned disbelief. A first-rate warrior, who slays grandmasters. That's insane. And that kind of power only gets 10th place. Does that mean the top 9 are all grandmaster-level monsters? Chapter 4, Grandmaster Showdown. Sword Master's name echoes through Kyushu. Right now, Xianyang was as quiet as a tomb. Gai Nye had previously claimed he had a 50-50 chance in a fight against a grandmaster. While most people didn't outwardly question it, many outside of Qin still had doubts. The gap between first-rate and grandmaster is like night and day. But as the golden list made it crystal clear, Grandmaster Slayer, everyone went slack-jawed. Gai Nye, you. Even the first emperor was floored, glancing at Gai Nye in astonishment. When did all this happen? Yingyun knew Gai Nye had a past with a powerful grandmaster. But for some reason, that grandmaster never came around Xianyang again. Rumors said Gai Nye once fought the grandmaster to a draw. But Grandmaster Slayer was so unbelievable, even Yingyun struggled to accept it. Your Majesty. Gai Nye sighed softly, but before he could speak, a stream of light erupted from the golden list. Images began to coalesce within the scroll. That's Gai Nye. Someone pointed to the figure walking in the night with a long sword strapped to his back, and yelled. Everyone's attention snapped to the scene. Over in the big leagues. This must be the showdown the gold list mentioned, Liu Bang said, rubbing his neck and watching the scene unfold. A hint of envy and jealousy flashed in his eyes. He let out a long sigh. Beating a grandmaster while first-rate. Yingyun sure got lucky. In Daming, Zhu Yuanzhang stayed quiet about heaven's favor. He just sat on his throne, glared at Zhu Di, and sighed. Why can't you get your act together, Deming? Imagine if we had someone like Gai Nye in the Genie Guard. We'd be unstoppable. Father, you can't just find strong people like that anywhere you go. Zhu Di's face fell. His dad's ideas were getting out of hand. Even one grandmaster in the Genie Guard would be a blessing, and his dad wanted all of them. Ahem. Zhu Yuanzhang coughed awkwardly, then smacked Zhu Di upside the head without mercy. Can't even dream anymore. Who's emperor here, you or me? Your son. Zhu Di looked resentful, but he didn't dare argue. He just stood there, speechless. In the Tang Dynasty, Li Shimin had just summoned Sun Wuji, Fang Xianling, Qin Qiong, and other key officials when he saw a familiar figure carrying a sword on the golden list. The sword master's presence is terrifying, that even across that distance, Li Shimin felt a sword pierce his heart. Too bad he's already been claimed. I wonder who he killed. Li Shimin paused, the scene shifted, and 2 more figures materialized, standing opposite Gai Nye. They radiated immense power. Grandmasters. Hold on. Gasps rippled through the dynasties and martial arts communities. A first-rate warrior fighting one grandmaster and winning was crazy enough. But facing 2 at the same time? This was getting ridiculous. Here it comes, someone yelled as the 2 grandmasters lunged. Boom! The 3 figures blurred, moving so fast it was nearly impossible to follow. Wait, is that one of our great Yuan masters? Kublai Khan of the Great Yuan Dynasty pointed to one of the grandmasters and roared. Master Borchu said he was heading to the Central Plains, but he never came back. So he actually died in Qin. Borchu was a founding hero who helped Genghis Khan conquer the world. He was also a grandmaster. Thanks to him, Kublai Khan was able to crush the southern Song dynasty and unify the Great Yuan. But now he'd been killed by the Sword Saint. Like Kublai Khan, Huang Taiji of the Qin Dynasty also exclaimed. The other grandmaster was from the Qin Dynasty, Ixinjueluo Fushan, uncle to Nurhasai, the founder of the Qin Dynasty. Fushan, who had disappeared without a trace, suddenly reappeared. Time passed, and the battle neared its end. Under the relentless assault of the two grandmasters, Yingyun was battered and bleeding. He looked like a bloody mess. Just when everyone thought Yingyun was finished, a sky-splitting burst of sword energy exploded from him. He unleashed a single, blinding slash. Boom! The sword seemed to embody Yingyun's very soul. The line between Yingyun and the sword blurred. And with that one strike, both grandmasters died. Chapter 5, The World is Stunned. A divine blessing. One sword to kill two grandmasters. The shockwaves ripped through Kyushu, stunning everyone from the martial arts masters to the imperial courts. Grandmasters were rare. Most dynasties had been built on the backs of masters. Like the Yuan and Qin dynasties. Chapter 4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. They started as just ordinary nomads, but the birth of a master within their tribe allowed them to establish an immortal dynasty. Even though they're nowhere near as strong as empires like Great Qin or Great Tang, they're still noteworthy. And now, this Yingyun character just turned two grandmasters into ash with a single sword stroke. The first reaction most people have is disbelief. But the being who created this heavenly Tao golden list is at least a top-tier immortal. Maybe even the supreme and unknowable heavenly way itself. Would a being like that fabricate lies? Plus, considering what happened with the Yuan and Qin dynasty's supreme masters, the truth is pretty obvious. In a deep, dark valley, a somewhat arrogant figure looked up at the image in the sky and smiled faintly. The unity of man and sword, huh? That's one promising kid. Is that so, little hawk? He gently reached out and teased a young eagle perched in front of him, prompting the bird to squawk in protest, but it couldn't do anything about it. At Tianmen, Emperor Shi Tian, radiating a powerful aura, glanced coldly at the sky and murmured. Tianmen has been hidden for too long. I figured our reappearance would be a bigger deal. But Yingyun is only ranked 10th. It looks like the martial arts world runs deeper than I thought. At Blackwood Cliff, a woman with a strange, but strangely beautiful face glanced at the heavenly Tao golden list. Then, she lost interest. At Wutang, Zhang Sanfeng stood with his hands clasped behind his back, looking at the sky, silent for a long time. Meanwhile, countless emperors from dynasties of the past were equally shocked. Killing two masters with a single sword? That kind of achievement is insane. But the most shocking thing is that someone capable of that is only ranked 10th on the list. How terrifying must those ranked above him be? In Qin, Yingyun was also stunned. Yingyun, his bodyguard, has been hiding this kind of power all along, enough to kill two grandmasters back to back. This is too unbelievable, right? Yingyun, you. Yingyun looked at Yingyun, a question in his eyes. That battle. Seeing Yingyun's gaze, Yingyun, pulled from his memories, gave a wry smile and said. The realm of the unity of man and sword. I've only achieved it once in my life. And after that fight, the sword energy backfired, and I'll never reach the Grandmaster level again. Master of Swordsmanship. It's a lifelong goal for every swordsman. Even Yingyun, known as the God of Swords, is no exception. He wants to become a sword master. It's been his ambition all along, but breaking through to Grandmaster is already unbelievably difficult. A sword master is a legendary figure. Truth be told, there isn't even a single sword master in Kyushu right now. That just goes to show how close to impossible it is. So that's how it is. Hearing this, Yingyun was floored. He never knew Yingyun was carrying such a burden, Master of Swordsmanship. When Yingyun first met Yingyun, it was the title he was aiming for, but recently, he'd stopped mentioning it. Whenever Yingyun asked, Yingyun always dodged the question. Yingyun had figured it was just too hard to become a sword master, and Yingyun had given up, so he hadn't pushed it, but now, he realizes that in that battle, Yingyun didn't just get forced into the realm of the unity of man and sword, he probably became the first sword master in Kyushu in that moment. I'll find the best doctors. We'll cure you, no matter what, Taking a deep breath, determination flashed in Yingyun's eyes. He spoke solemnly. I refuse to believe that in all of Jojo, we can't find a cure. Yingyun is Yingyun's bodyguard, but they're also friends. Now that he's injured, Yingyun won't just stand by and do nothing. Thank you, Your Majesty. Yingyun bowed, his voice deep. He wouldn't reject Yingyun's kindness. But he's already searched for the best doctors over the years. Injuries caused by sword energy aren't something doctors can fix. It's all been in vain. At that moment, everything that happened in Great Qin was broadcast to everyone in the world by the Heavenly Tao Golden List. Countless people had mixed reactions. Several capitals near the Qin, including the Han, the Chu, the Xiongnu, and other territories, all breathed a sigh of relief, especially the Xiongnu. When Yingyun killed the Grandmaster, they were ready to pack up and move in with the Turks, Khitans, and Jurchens. They've got the biggest grudge against the Qin, practically irreconcilable. If Yingyun actually became a sword master, and with his track record of killing 2 grandmasters before even reaching that level, he could probably wipe out the entire Xiongnu tribe single-handedly. The name Xiongnu might disappear from Kyushu entirely. Luckily, he can't break through to Grandmaster. Liu Bang of the Han Dynasty and Xiang Yu of the Chu Dynasty also visibly relaxed, especially the Chu. Xiang Yu's personal combat power is impressive, but that's in leading troops and organizing formations. If he faced a sword master one-on-one, he'd be dead in an instant. No question about it. And the Chu is far weaker than the Han overall. If the Qin really attacked, they'd be in serious trouble. The sword is unmatched. Breakthrough in battle, sword kills the master. Yingyun. Included in the peerless list, 10th. Rewarded with the blessing of heaven. Boom. Just when countless beings in Jojo were shocked, regretful, or relieved, the voice of the Heavenly Tao Golden List echoed in everyone's ears again. At the same time, an unimaginable wave of power erupted. A truly indescribable power. Suddenly, all of the Qin, even the entire Jojo, saw endless golden light flashing in the distant sky, descending. Not through the Golden List. This was a sight that could be seen with the naked eye. A heavenly blessing. The words spoken when the Heavenly Golden List first appeared flashed through everyone's minds. Then, they were all stunned. What would be the reward from heaven? Chapter 6 Swordmaster. All countries were shocked. A heavenly blessing. In the Qin Dynasty, Yingyun looked up at the sky, at the golden light. Feeling the immense power, his heart trembled. Compared to such a being, even his generation of emperors felt as insignificant as dust. This was almost impossible to believe. Who is he? The only emperor in history, the one who unified the world, the creator of the Qin Empire. He created the very title of emperor. Dynasties just copied him after that, but now, faced with that power, Yingyun realized how insignificant he truly was. Is this the heavenly way? Chapter 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yingyun couldn't help but sigh. This level of existence is just beyond ordinary comprehension. Boom. As time ticked by, the golden light in the void intensified, condensing into a radiant beam that plunged earthward. The world seemed to dim in its presence, and then, almost simultaneously, a commanding voice, resonant and majestic, echoed in the minds of everyone. Blessing of the gods. 1. All hidden injuries are healed. 2. A breakthrough. Mastery achieved. 3. Divine sword evolution. The pronouncements reverberated, leaving everyone speechless with awe. Then, the beam rippled and poured directly into Yingyun. A surge of power flowed from him, like a long, sustained breath. Yingyun seemed to slip into a profound and mysterious state. The hidden injuries from his battles with other masters vanished instantly. The feeling of being reborn left even the stoic Yingyun momentarily stunned. He was healed. But that momentary daze was quickly overshadowed by an even more terrifying aura. Boom! The moment Yingyun recovered, his sword energy surged. It was as if 1,000 swords were ringing in the heavens. Yuan Hong, his divine sword, ranked second in Foam-Beard's sword manual, trembled and overflowed with light. It sent shivers down people's spines. Grandmaster. The thought flashed unbidden through Guy Nye's mind. He instinctively reached for Yuan Hong, channeling his inner sword energy. Boom. Instantly, the sound of swords rang out throughout the Qin Dynasty, and even reached the nearby Han and Chu dynasties. Swordsmen everywhere felt their own blades tremble, as if in worship of some unknown power. A master of swordsmanship? The words echoed in the minds of swordsmen everywhere. To command the swords of the world, only a legendary master could achieve such a feat. In the Qin, an aura of swordsmanship emanated from Guy Nye, compelling him to close his eyes, as if reliving that day. The battle with the two grandmasters. Man and sword, becoming one. Man is sword, sword is man, man and sword are indivisible. That is the essence of a master of swordsmanship. Whoosh. Breathing deeply, a smile, long unseen, graced Guy Nye's face. A breakthrough, at last. He had almost given up on the possibility. Though he had only caught a glimpse of the Grandmaster realm and the merging of man and sword, it was enough. No regrets now. But he hadn't anticipated divine favor. Not only had he broken through, but his divine sword, Yuan Hong, had also evolved. Now, he could probably slay those two grandmasters with a single strike. That was the power of a sword master. Congratulations, sir, on achieving mastery of swordsmanship. Ding Zheng's hearty laughter broke the silence. The stunned onlookers snapped back to reality, their gazes fixed on Guy Nye, now forever changed. Sword master. An ordinary grandmaster was rare enough, but a master of swordsmanship. That was unheard of. Congratulations, sir. Congratulations. The court officials, both civil and military, surged forward with congratulations. Guy Nye simply nodded, resuming his place behind Ding Zheng, a silent guardian. Meanwhile, in the Han dynasty, a master of swordsmanship, actually, truly broke through. Lu Bang, his face etched with shock, paced anxiously in his hall, muttering. What am I going to do? Guy Nye was already a handful. Now that he's become a grandmaster, can my Han dynasty really stand against it? Lu Bang looked toward his generals, but faced with his gaze, the generals who had won countless victories on the battlefield averted their eyes. A master of swordsmanship was far stronger than an ordinary grandmaster. It would take at least 100,000 elite soldiers just to contain him on the battlefield. And to kill him? Double that, at least. Even then, only if the sword master was cornered. Your Majesty, there's no need to worry. Don't forget that this is only the 10th name on the gold list. Zhang Liang spoke, his eyes flickering as he addressed Lu Bang. Presumably, whether by divine blessing or sheer strength, those in the top 9 on the gold list are far stronger than this Guy Nye. If we can recruit one to the Han dynasty, this crisis will be averted. Right. Lu Bang, somewhat relieved, nodded dully, gazing at the heavenly Tao gold list. I just hope someone on that list appears in Han. At the very least, let's hope they don't stay in Qin. In the Chu state, Xiang Yu clenched his fists, watching Guy Nye's ascension on the heavenly Tao gold list. There was no need to even watch, the resounding clang of 1,000 swords was deafening. Impossible to miss. Father, what do we do now? Xiang Yu turned to an old man with white hair and beard, asking. If Guy Nye comes for me, I'm not sure I can stop him. Perhaps, there's less than a 30% chance. He sighed, mentally tallying the forces of Jiangdong, and shook his head in despair. Unlike the Han, Chu's strength rested almost entirely on Xiang Yu's shoulders. If Qin decided to suppress Chu, the state would be in danger of annihilation. Wait. Fan Zeng shook his head, his eyes fixed on the heavenly Tao gold list. For now, we must seek someone also on the peerless list to resist Guy Nye. Chapter 7, 9th on the peerless list. Yuan Tiangang. At this moment, in countless courts, whether of great nations or small, and in the martial arts world, all eyes were on the heavenly gold list, waiting for the reveal of the 9th name on the peerless list. The 10th was already this earth-shattering. A master of swordsmanship. A lifelong pursuit for countless cultivators in Kyushu, yet elusive. And he ranked only 10th. Then the top 10 must be filled with impossibly powerful figures. In the Tang Dynasty, Li Shimin watched the scene in the sky, a trace of envy in his eyes. So Yingyun has a sword master now. At this rate, the Qin, already formidable, may never meet its match. He sighed, wishing that Grandmaster had been born in Tang. Fortunately, there's the Han, the Chu, and numerous smaller states between the Qin and us. Changsun Wuji spoke, a note of solemnity in his voice. Chapter 6. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I won't be able to sleep or eat otherwise, that the sword master teaming up with the Qin cavalry. They were unstoppable. Too bad the great Tang doesn't have anyone like that. What the? Li Shimin nodded, a rueful smile on his face, and glanced at the golden list in the sky. He sighed and was about to say something when he suddenly stopped. What's that? Before he could finish his sigh, the golden list shimmered, and the image of Yingyun vanished. It was replaced by a totally different scene. It looked like a vast land, mountains, rivers, the scenes were crystal clear. That looks like our great Tang. Li Shimin stared at the landscape, stunned, and muttered to himself, unlike before, the heavenly Tao golden list rippled slightly, and the name of the 9th peerless figure hadn't appeared yet, but a picture was being shown first. Everyone who saw this was dumbfounded. Specifically, countries bordering the Tang, like the Song Dynasty and the Turks, immediately recognized the land on the screen, the Tang Dynasty. They shared borders and had fought them more than once or twice. How could they not recognize their old rival? Could the 9th figure on the peerless list be from the Tang Dynasty? Some countries farther from the Tang were okay, but the capitals of the Song Dynasty, the Turks, and Tubo were practically paralyzed with fear. The 10th on the list was a sword master. What kind of being was above that? No one even dared to imagine it. Back in the Tang Dynasty, Li Shimin was speechless. He couldn't believe the figure on the peerless list he'd just been thinking about might actually be from his own dynasty. Who? He scanned the court, his gaze lingering on each person, but he couldn't find anyone who could even compare to Yingyun, let alone surpass him. Li Shimin started to get nervous. In theory, the Tang Dynasty had taken the imperial examination system from the Sui Dynasty and improved it. They'd even created separate civil and military exams. He wouldn't say this about the whole world. But within the Tang Dynasty, Li Shimin could confidently say he had every talented individual within his grasp. But something felt off here. A powerhouse at least master level had appeared, and he hadn't heard a thing. Li Shimin began to question everything. Your Majesty, if that person's in the Tang, old Cheng, will dig him up if it's the last thing I do. Cheng Yaojin's booming voice broke the silence. He pounded his chest, assuring Li Shimin. The others just smiled, not taking him seriously. A master-level powerhouse wouldn't be captured by Cheng Yaojin alone. Not even if he led 100,000 soldiers. It's starting. Qin Xiong's eyes flickered. He saw the image on the heavenly Tao golden list start to blur, then, the long-awaited majestic voice echoed again. 9th on the peerless list, Yuan Tiangang. Realm, Grandmaster. Unstable. Record, none. When the voice faded, almost everyone was stunned. They thought they'd misheard it. The 9th on the peerless list was a Grandmaster. That was expected. After all, the 10th was already a top-tier fighter who could kill Grandmasters. The 9th place had to be at least Grandmaster level. But a Grandmaster, and unstable? What was that about? And no record? How could someone with no known battles be ranked 9th? The entire land of Kyushu was in an uproar. Yuan Tiangang, do we have someone like that in the Tang Dynasty? Li Shimin was confused, scanning the crowd with a doubtful expression. He wasn't doubting the golden list, but wondered when such a master had appeared in the Tang Dynasty. It wasn't just Li Shimin, everyone present, Changsun Wuji, Qin Xiong, Cheng Yaojin, all the famous officials in the Tang court, were just as baffled. They had never heard that name before. Who was this Yuan Tiangang? In a small town in the Tang Dynasty, Yuan Tiangang was using palmistry to swindle a few people out of some money, planning to finally get a decent meal. Suddenly, a majestic voice echoed in his ears, ninth on the peerless list, Yuan Tiangang. He froze. Crap, how did they find out? Yuan Tiangang was stunned. He was just making a living with palmistry. How could he be ninth on the peerless list? I gotta run. Alarm flashed across Yuan Tiangang's face. He looked around, then carefully slipped out of town. He'd been making a name for himself with the palmistry his master had taught him. If the authorities found out, he'd never escape. Chapter 8, Yingyun arrives. The most outrageous grandmaster. Yuan Tiangang, who's that? Never heard of him. During the Ming Dynasty, Zhu Yuanzhang glanced at his son, confused. Have you heard of him? No, I haven't. Zhu Di looked embarrassed. He really didn't know. Yuan Tiangang. He must not be from the Ming Dynasty. But the mountains and rivers floating in the sky looked a lot like the Tang Dynasty in his memory. Could Yuan Tiangang be from the Tang Dynasty? Useless. Zhu Yuanzhang glared at Zhu Di and cursed casually, then he patted his beloved grandson Zhu Yunwen on the head and asked. My dear grandson, do you know this? Yuan Tiangang. Grandpa, Yunwen, doesn't know either. Zhu Yunwen answered timidly, as if scared by the way Zhu Yuanzhang had scolded Zhu Di. He. Our good grandson is honest, just like grandpa. If you don't know, you don't know. Just when Zhu Yunwen thought he was about to get yelled at, Zhu Yuanzhang suddenly laughed, ruffled Zhu Yunwen's hair, and said. Grandpa will give you that jade coral they brought as tribute last time. Thank you, Grandpa, Zhu Yunwen answered brightly. Looking at old Zhu's double standard, Zhu Di was heartbroken and speechless. He was used to his father's double standards, but did he have to be so obvious? Yep. The world only hurts one kind of person. In the Qin, Yingyun, still reeling from the surprise of Yingyun becoming a master swordsman, heard the heavenly Tao Golden List's voice. He was stunned, then repeated the name to himself. Yuan Tiangang, is he a powerful master? A grandmaster? Yingyun had broken through with the Golden List's blessing. How terrifying would a grandmaster be? Right. Have you found my traitor yet? After a moment of silence, Yingyun glanced around, as if remembering something, and asked coldly. Tell him to get over here now. Playing around will make you lose your focus. Chapter 7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yingyun was furious. If his son wasn't so obsessed with having a good time, maybe he could have made it onto the heavenly Tao Golden List with his martial arts skills. Though, let's be real, that was a long shot, but still, what if? Then Great Qin would have two grandmasters. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. If he hadn't been waiting for the heavenly Tao Golden List reveal, he would have gone after him himself. He's here. He's here. The ninth prince is here. Just as Yingyun was about to blow a gasket, a breathless voice echoed outside the Zhongtai palace. Meng Tian rushed in, panting. Behind him, Yingyun sauntered along, as if he were taking a walk in the park. Yingyun, the ninth prince of Qin, once his pride, now almost forgotten, so, he finally showed up. You rebellious son, you dare to show your face around here. Do you even know what time it is? The moment Yingyun saw Yingyun, his anger finally had an outlet, and he roared. Sigh. Seeing Yingyun's rage, Yingyun sighed inwardly. He knew Meng Tian's frantic summons couldn't mean anything good. He'd been planning to do some shopping. Father, didn't you send for me? Facing the furious Yingyun, Yingyun tried to defuse the situation, bowing slightly and saying. I've been studying military strategy these days, which made me a little late. Cough. Even Yingyun blushed at the end. It was a weak excuse, but it was better than nothing. Oh, brother. Wang Jian and the other ministers winced, then sighed with resignation. Studying military strategy? Seriously? Even Yingyun's face darkened. but then, almost automatically, Yingyun glanced at the heavenly Tao golden list. Watching the images unfold, it looked like Yuan Tiangang was finally about to appear. He shook his head, suppressed his anger, glared at Yingyun, and said curtly, "Just get over here. Watch and learn from this master." "Yes." Yingyun gave a lazy bow, then glanced at the image in the air. He found a comfortable spot to lean against and settled in to watch. The court officials exchanged disapproving glances. They thought he should take it seriously, but what could they do when the heavenly Tao golden list was calling the shots? Up in the sky, the heavenly Tao golden list shimmered, and the mountains and rivers slowly faded, replaced by a small town. A town of maybe 10,000 people. There were tons of towns like that all over the land. As the picture on the heavenly Tao golden list sharpened, a figure in a Taoist robe appeared. "Is that Yuan Tiangang?" Everyone was stunned. This guy looked like he was running away from something, hardly what you'd expect from a grandmaster. "Tang Dynasty. That looks like it's near Chang'an, right?" Li Shimin stared at the town, then spoke hesitantly. He'd followed Li Yuan to conquer the world, fighting battles all over the Tang Dynasty. He knew that town. It was practically in Chang'an's backyard. Was there a grandmaster living right under his nose? Li Shimin started to question his life choices. He looked at the officials and asked, "Am I crazy, or is that near Chang'an?" "Looks like it." The faces of everyone present grew strange. Was this hiding in plain sight? Was this invincible dude actually, just hanging out in the mortal world? Whoa, just as everyone was thinking, Yuan Tiangang tripped. They heard a thud. Yuan Tiangang face-planted. The entire continent went silent. This was a master. No way. How does a master trip and fall on his face? That's ridiculous. Chapter 9, Space-Time Shenanigans. The real Yuan Tiangang. Silence. Everyone who saw this scene was stunned. This was ridiculous. Where was the master vibe? He looked like a con artist. And this guy was ranked 9th on the peerless list. Was this a joke? Qin. Could the heavenly Tao golden list be wrong? Even Yingyun looked doubtful. He turned to Yingyun and murmured. "Yingyun, what do you make of this?" Yingyun had seen master-level experts before. None of them were like this. "Your Majesty, I don't know what to make of it either." Yingyun looked puzzled, shook his head, and answered. Now that he was a master swordsman himself, he understood the mysteries of the master's realm, but he'd never seen a grandmaster so different. Tang Dynasty. Did I mess up? Is that not the Tang Dynasty, but somewhere else? Li Shimin's mouth twitched. He glanced at Qin Qiong, Changsun Wuji, Qingyao Jin, and asked uncertainly. "Your Majesty, it's the Tang Dynasty. I was just there a couple of days ago. It's called Jingqing." Qingyao Jin scratched his head and said honestly. "It's in our Tang Dynasty." Great, that the last shred of hope in Li Shimin's heart vanished. He didn't understand how great Qin's second-rate experts could be so dominant, killing 2 grandmasters with a single sword. And how could his grandmaster be so hopeless? Damning. "Grandson, don't you go imitating people like that." Zhu Yuanzhang pointed at the figure on the screen and said sternly to Zhu Yunwen. Got it. At that moment, the entire continent was speechless. They actually suspected that the Tiandao golden list was broken. How could someone like that be considered peerless? 10 years in the making. The payoff is finally here. Watch out, world. If you don't chirp, that's it. A blockbuster. Chapter 8. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Just as everyone reeled in disbelief, the booming voice of the heavenly Tao golden list echoed in their minds. At the same moment, the image above shimmered, warping as if time and space itself twisted. In that vision, the seasons spun by, and in what felt like a heartbeat, decades melted away. Even the city had transformed, no longer a small town but a sprawling metropolis. Wait. It wasn't just the city. The figure in the image was aging, his hair turning white, radiating an aura of hard-won wisdom. "Is that a vision of the future?" that someone, finally understanding, gasped. It was undeniably Yuan Tiangang, yet time had etched its mark upon him. The audience was speechless. This heavenly Tao golden list could reveal the future. Unbelievable. "Hold on, what's that?" As everyone grappled with the golden list's power, someone spotted a tiny black speck against the sky, slowly growing larger. It looked like a meteorite. Meteorite. Back in the Tang Dynasty, Li Shimin stared, jaw clenched, at the scene. He shot to his feet, a flicker of dread in his eyes. "That's Chang'an." Li Shimin knew every inch of Chang'an. Even after decades, a city of this magnitude wouldn't change so drastically. Could a meteorite strike Chang'an in the next few decades? Changsan Wuji was first to voice the fear, his face ashen. The devastation such a natural disaster could wreak was well known. It was a force of total annihilation. If a meteorite fell upon Chang'an, the consequences would be catastrophic. Hundreds of thousands would perish. The entire Tang dynasty could crumble, swallowed by its neighbors. After all, the emperor and his court resided in Chang'an. That city is done for. Across Zhuzhou, onlookers watched the approaching doom, and sighed. Against such a force, resistance was futile. Then, against all odds, as the meteorite threatened to obliterate everything, a figure moved. White-haired, long-bearded, his Taoist robe looked patched and worn, a bit worse for wear, yet he flew towards the sky, a moth drawn to a flame. The world held its breath. Chapter 10, One Man Against the Sky. Zhuzhou stunned. A man flew towards the meteorite. Even seasoned masters were stunned. For all their power, they were still mortal. They could dodge floods, maybe even a small meteorite, but stop one with sheer strength? Impossible. And what were they seeing? A man who'd once needed help walking, a man touched by age, attempting to defy a cataclysmic event. No way. Everyone assumed Yuan Tiangang was a gnat challenging a locomotive, doomed to be crushed. "Is that me?" In Jingcheng, Yuan Tiangang's eyes widened, a deep focus settling upon him. He murmured. Could that actually happen? He stared at his hands, recalling his master's deathbed words. Their lineage held a technique, usable only once in a lifetime. A technique capable of felling even the mightiest master. Yet, his master had never used it, even as he lay dying. He'd succumbed to a fortune-telling blunder, a wound that proved fatal. Yuan Tiangang had always suspected his master was pulling his leg. Still, his dubious master had taught him exceptional fortune-telling skills. He'd managed to travel the world, never worrying about his next meal. Now, gazing at the Tiandao golden list, Yuan Tiangang wondered if his master was right after all. If it's true, maybe I can stop that thing. Ignoring the muttering around him, Yuan Tiangang was lost in thought, and a spark ignited in his eyes. Suddenly, the scene leaped forward. The aged Yuan Tiangang launched himself towards the highest point of Chang'an. He inhaled deeply, resolve hardening his features. Then, facing the meteorite poised to annihilate Chang'an, he unleashed unimaginable power. Boom. The skies seemed to darken. Only Yuan Tiangang and the falling meteorite were illuminated. Yuan Tiangang's gaunt form grew, swelling with power. At the last possible moment, he met the meteorite head-on. The falling space rock shifted. It moved. The onlookers were speechless. A meteorite, the ultimate force of nature. And one man had diverted its path. Impossible. Who is this man? A grandmaster? But that's crazy. To alter the trajectory of a meteorite with one's bare hands? That's beyond belief. The entire Zhuzhou continent was in an uproar. Disbelief and shock warped their faces. How could one person possess such power? Grandmaster? They had witnessed power, but nothing like this. In a hidden valley, a proud figure stroked the small eagle, then looked up at the golden list and said calmly. It seems my years of seclusion have produced some exceptional talents in Kyushu. Chirp. The little eagle flapped its wings, annoyed at being interrupted, but did not try to fly away. Heh. The man grinned, then glanced at the exit of the valley, and mumbled to himself. If I get the chance, maybe I'll go out for a walk. Back in the sky, the scene continued. The meteorite, having been deflected, bypassed Chang'an and struck a nearby hill. Boom. Dust engulfed everything. It was as if the earth had split open. Even Chang'an trembled, homes crumbled, and at least thousands were injured or killed. Chapter 9. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sure, that was a close call. If that meteor hadn't veered off course, Chang'an would be a living hell right now, right? After what felt like forever, the dust finally settled. Everyone stared in disbelief. Hills that had been towering for ages had vanished completely. Now, there was just a massive, bottomless crater. You could practically feel the raw power of destruction hanging in the air. Silence. The entire country was dead quiet. Nobody would have guessed that this so-called Grandmaster, the guy who could trip over his own feet and was the butt of everyone's jokes, was packing that kind of punch. Ranked number 9. He more than earned it. Chapter 11, Yingyun is shook. Yingyun's take, quiet for years, then became a showstopper. He was holding back. What a knockout. Yuan Tiangang. Now sitting at number 9 on the peerless list. Blessed by the heavens. The booming voice of the golden list echoed, lingering in everyone's ears. Instantly, the name was on everyone's lips. Yuan Tiangang. He's got that kind of power. Blessed by the heavens. In Jingcheng, Yuan Tiangang was floored, feeling a surge of energy shift within him. Golden light burst from his body, pushing his aura to new heights. This was different from what Gai Nie had experienced. Yuan Tiangang felt a dormant power inside him surging, like it was finally ready to explode. At the same time, a voice boomed in his head, heaven's blessing. 1. You can see cause and effect, and determine fate. 2. Unlocks hidden potential. 3. Adds 100 years to your life. The powerful voice wasn't just in Yuan Tiangang's head, everyone in the country heard it. Then, all hell broke loose. He can see cause and effect, and determine fate. And unlock potential. 100 extra years of life. Who wouldn't go nuts over that? Everyone knew the potential thing was a huge deal. Forget being a master, he could take on natural disasters. And the cause and effect ability might not have been obvious on the golden list, but being the first blessing mentioned, and saying he can determine fate, tells you everything, and that bonus century of life. It felt like a dream come true. Especially for emperors, it was an irresistible lure. And now, all this stuff people only dream of, he just got it, free from the heavens. Totally insane. Datang. Go. Get to Jingcheng now. Li Shimin jumped up, a wild look in his eyes, and shouted. Changsun Wuji, Qing Yao Jin, you, no. I'm going myself. Li Shimin was just whining about why Gai Nie wasn't born in the Tang Dynasty. If they had someone like that, they wouldn't have had to sign that humiliating Weishui alliance with the Turks. And now, this real master, even stronger than Gai Nie, shows up, and Li Shimin's losing it. Yes sir. As you command. Qin Xiong and the others didn't hesitate, they were out the door in a flash. A powerful master. Could the Tang Dynasty finally get a win? The country, the Ming, Song, Han, Qin, Yuan dynasties, even those tiny little kingdoms, all jumped into action. A strong master. Not some guy like Gai Nie who already pledged allegiance to Yingyun. This was a free agent. So they sent envoys to Datang ASAP. All they wanted was to bribe Yuan Tiangang with a ton of cash. They saw on the golden list that this master didn't seem to be having a great time in the Tang Dynasty. If they really opened their wallets, they might be able to win him over. Then their kingdom would have a master who could hold back natural disasters. What's to be afraid of then? Some of those tiny kingdom rulers were thinking they'd give up half their land to get this guy. Totally worth it. Qin, Yingyun also sent an envoy to Datang. But he knew, unless Li Shimin had lost it, Yuan Tiangang would likely stick with Datang. He only saw Yuan Tiangang once on the golden list, but Yingyun knew this guy wasn't the type to ditch his home so easily. He couldn't help being a little jealous. Why couldn't this guy be in their great Qin? At least I've got Gai Nie. He told himself, trying to feel better. Then he glanced around and saw Yingyun looking sleepy, and Yingyun blew a fuse. How could he still be sleeping after all this? Yingyun. Yingyun's yell startled everyone, and they all looked over at Yingyun. He was slumped in the corner, eyes closed, looking like he was sleeping. Nobody knew what to say. All they could think was, how did the ninth prince find a way to sleep through all this? Huh! Yingyun heard the roar, snapped awake, and locked eyes with his dad's killer stare. Hi, Yingyun coughed, smiled innocently, and said. So, you called me, father. Honestly, Yingyun didn't want to sleep, but this whole scene was boring. A land deity could wave away a tiny meteor like that. Land deity. Practically a full-blown immortal, just hadn't jumped dimensions to some unknown world yet. Natural disasters were no big deal. I'm asking you, what do you think of this Yuan Tiangang? Yingyun took a deep breath, tried to stay calm, and asked icily. He swore, if this kid didn't have a good answer, heads would roll. Yuan Tiangang. Yingyun looked up, glanced at the golden list, frowned, and said. I bet he's got some special technique. That meteor-smashing move? Probably a one-time deal. But with heaven's blessing, it's different. Maybe he can stay at Grandmaster level. Or, he can use that move to take down another Grandmaster. Being a deity, Yingyun could see right through Yuan Tiangang, so he gave a casual answer. This. Everyone stared at Yingyun, speechless. Chapter 10. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Edited content. They originally thought Yuan Tiangang was just some hermit expert who didn't like to show off. But now, with the ninth prince's explanation and the stimulating power from the heavenly blessing, it's starting to seem like that might actually be the case. Chapter 12, Yingyun's thoughts. Yuan Tiangong's strength exposed. So, Yingyun, what do you think? After a moment of silence, Yingyun turned to Yingyun and asked gravely. He had to admit, what his good-for-nothing son said made a certain amount of sense, but the problem was, when Yuan Tiangong's name first appeared on the golden list, the guy was sound asleep. Yingyun strongly suspected Yingyun was just making things up. It wouldn't be the first time. This. Yingyun hesitated, glancing at the scene in the sky before turning back to Yingyun. My opinion aligns with the ninth prince's. If Yuan Tiangang was truly hiding his strength, I, as a swords master, would have sensed it. But as far as I can tell, Yuan Tiangang was just an ordinary man. Yingyun looked at Yingyun with surprise. He hadn't expected the ninth prince, who was known for being a lazy bum, to have such insights. It showed a vision that rivaled that of a true master. It's actually true. The officials were stunned. They couldn't believe the sword master agreed with the ninth prince's random explanation. Could it be Yingyun had been keeping a low profile all these years? They looked at him, but when they saw the ninth prince yawning, looking as if he hadn't fully woken up, they immediately dismissed the idea. With his attitude, it was most likely just a lucky guess. Humph! Yingyun glared at Yingyun and swallowed back his scolding. Stop sleeping. Pay attention to the golden list. Maybe you'll learn something. Didn't you used to want to practice martial arts and become a great master? Yingyun remembered when Yingyun had been eager to learn martial arts, only to inexplicably give up. If the timing was right, he'd give the kid a lesson. For being so lazy. Okay, Yingyun said casually, glancing at the picture in the sky with little interest. In his eyes, the two people Tiandao chose were weak. Even with the blessing of heaven, he could crush them with a finger. He was only there to keep Yingyun happy, otherwise, he would have bailed. A land god's strength can't be hidden forever, he thought. Even those he considered weak were making the list, so he might not be able to hide his own power for long. Oh well. I'm just a land god. I have plenty of other tricks up my sleeve. Surely those won't be exposed, right? They shouldn't be, right? Staring at the Tiandao golden list, Yingyun was suddenly unsure. He had been holding back for so long, he couldn't even remember all the power he had. If it all came out, his cheap dad Yingyun might not be able to handle it. Meanwhile, Yingyun hadn't considered Yingyun worrying about his mental endurance. He saw Yingyun watching the Tiandao golden list, seemingly captivated by the images, and nodded in satisfaction. That was more like it. Yingyun had been worried about his lazy son. Now that he was finally putting in some effort, his anger dissipated. He even briefly considered handing the Qin over to Yingyun in the future. None of his other sons were up to the task. Of course, it was just a fleeting thought. Choosing a crown prince required careful consideration. Most importantly, Yingyun feared that after his death, no one would be able to keep Yingyun in check, letting the kid ruin the empire built by 6 generations of the Qin. At the same time, in the Tang Dynasty, as the blessing of heaven strengthened Yuan Tiangong's strength too. The master level, Li Shimin, Changsun Wuji, Qin Qiong, and others arrived. After a moment of hesitation, Yuan Tiangang accepted the Emperor of Tang's offer. Everyone saw this through the picture on the Tiandao Golden List. Instantly, emperors across the dynasties beat their chests in regret. They had sent envoys to the Tang Dynasty to negotiate with Yuan Tiangang, some even willing to share their country with him, but they were all shocked by the scene before them. Yuan Tiangang hadn't waited for a better offer. He agreed to the King of Tang's offer without hesitation. Li Shimin was thrilled to recruit a master. He couldn't help but laugh, especially when he learned Yuan Tiangang had been an ordinary man before, practicing a special technique that allowed him to temporarily exert extreme strength. He saw this when Yuan Tiangang deflected the meteorite in the Heavenly Tao picture. Now, with the blessing of the Heavenly Tao, Yuan Tiangong's strength was on par with that of an ordinary master. If he used that move again, what would its power be? Li Shimin was ecstatic. This was the strongest insurance he could have. If anyone threatened the Tang Dynasty, Yuan Tiangang could stand outside their capital, and who wouldn't be afraid? However, it was just a deterrent, and it could only be used once. Therefore, Li Shimin intentionally had Yuan Tiangang reveal the secret behind the move before the Heavenly Tao Golden List's picture disappeared. The whole of Zhou was in an uproar. An ordinary man deflected a meteorite with that move. What could a master do? Destroy a city with a single blow? Chapter 13, the 8th on the Peerless List. The surprise Zhu Yuanzhang, Ming Dynasty, Forbidden City. Li Shimin deliberately revealed this secret to intimidate us. Zhu Yuanzhang stood up, a trace of anger on his face. Li Shimin thinks he can do whatever he wants now that he has a master. If he makes me mad, I'll send the army after him. Despite his words, Zhu's envy was apparent. Yingyun was understandable. After all, Gyanye had always been a cornerstone of the Qin Dynasty. Everyone knew that. But Li Shimin had just picked up Yuan Tiangang. Masters falling from the sky into Chang'an. It made Zhu Yuanzhang jealous. Father, the Ming Dynasty is far from the Tang Dynasty, and we should be on good terms. Zhu Di wiped his forehead, helpless. The Yuan and Qing are our biggest rivals. The Ming Dynasty was between the foreign empires of Yuan and Qing. Though strong, it couldn't withstand attacks from both sides. Therefore, the Ming Dynasty was friendly with other major countries and never initiated wars. What? Are you the emperor or am I? Zhu Yuanzhang glared at Zhu Di, annoyed. But he knew the Ming Dynasty's situation inside. If our Ming Dynasty had a master on the Peerless List, how great would that be? Zhu Yuanzhang was envious. He knew Gyanye was a part of the Qin Dynasty and everyone knew that, but Li Shimin just found Yuan Tiangang. People sit in Chang'an, and masters come from the sky. He was jealous. Zhu Di wiped the sweat from his head and pretended not to hear his father. Big man, Lu Bang sighed. He thought he was lucky, going from rogue pavilion chief to emperor. His luck was unparalleled. Oh.